I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our first item on the agenda is special celebrations.
Madam Chair, we are going to postpone those special celebrations because of the weather, and we'll add them to the next agenda.
Okay.
So we do not have any, unfortunately, we don't have any special celebrations. There's a lot to celebrate, but what was on the agenda is not there tonight. So
Okay,
it's not
we'll
here.
wait for better weather.
Very good.
Okay, our next item is board member comments. Are there any
I'm sorry.
comments?
Actually, we have instructional updates.
You what?
We have instructional updates first before board member.
Oh, okay, here we go. I moved to page, I'm sorry, Kelly. I moved to page up too soon. Our next item is update on instruction and leadership services. Mrs. Watts.
So, good evening, Vice President Neely, Superintendent Sykes, board members. I am going to turn it over. It is our mid-year diagnostics review and our for our K-8 iReady scores as well, and then we'll have at high school, I believe, on PSAT data. So I want to turn over to the executive directors.
Okay.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So, tonight's going to look a teeny bit different than we've done in the past as far as, at least with middle school and high school, because I'm not going to make Mr. Boggs say phonemic awareness tonight, because that's his favorite word. All right, so what we're going to go over, maybe. All right, so I am going to go over our typical Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 information on all K-8. I'm going to do reading and math. Then Mr. Mann is going to do 3-8 for, we're going to look at projected proficiency and what that looks like on iReady. So we're going to do two different sections there. I'm going to show you the normal, regular tiers that I normally show you, and then Mr. Mann's going to go over the projection. And then we'll finish up with Ms. Scarberry with high school. All right, so here is our beginning of the year math. And I just did the simple 3 tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, with that being on grade level, 1 grade level below, and then 2 or more grade levels is the red. So on the left, you'll see the beginning of the year triangle versus the middle of the year. Now keep in mind that elementary and middle do it just slightly different. Elementary does 4 diagnostics, so we do a second one in November. So ours isn't quite a middle of the year benchmark, and then middle school does it in December, but that's still all of our middle of the year data. So what you're looking at, so our Tier 1 increased in math by about 14%, while the red decreased by 9%. So we're seeing the areas where we want to grow, and the ones we want to do better, we're seeing the red decrease like we want. The next slide is our domains, the placement domains for reading, or for math, I'm sorry. So NO is numbers and operations. So I'm gonna give you some numbers to go with that, just so you'll kind of have a reference there. So we increased number and operations 14%, and so we're at 34% in the green. And then for algebraic thinking, we're at 37%, and that's an increase of 15%. Measurement and data is 38%, and that's an increase of 12. And then geometry is at 30%, and that's an increase of 10. All right, questions so far about math? So just, I usually speak on this but we're doing our usual, we're using our interventionists for both reading and math. The middle school uses their interventionists during WVTSS time. We have do the math. We use the iReady toolbox for intervention pieces to help with our students that are falling behind. Yes, sir.
Could you tell me the numbers again on the first two, numbers and operation and algebra, just what that was?
Yes, it was, so the total for numbers and operations is 34%. That was a 14% increase. And then algebraic thinking was 37%, and that was a 15% increase from the beginning. Okay? All right, on to reading. And I'm not going to use the word letters the whole time I talk about reading. All right, so reading, same thing here. On the left, we have our beginning of the year, and on the right is middle of the year. We have an increase of 13% from beginning to middle in our green or tier 1 students for students on grade level, and then we decrease 6% from beginning to middle. We decrease 6% for those that are 2 or more grade levels below. Then I'm going to give you some more numbers in our next one because it breaks it down.
Jason.
Okay. All right. So, all right, this is my favorite one, is phonemic awareness. In the middle of the year, we are 89% proficient in phonemic awareness.
Wow.
Is that K-5?
That would be all, yes. It covers K-8, but they have tested out by then, so yes.
That's excellent.
That's fantastic.
That's excellent. And I also, what was it last year? We were at 100%? Yeah. So,
Yes, by the end, yes.
Yeah.
So just so you know, that was, just to keep in perspective as the math data, that is a 7% increase from the beginning of the year. So we're at 89% with a 7% increase. Phonics, we're at 69%. I'm still very pleased with that number as well. That's a 9% increase. High frequency words, we're at 82%. That's an 8% increase. Vocabulary, we're at 42% with a 10% increase. 42% for literary text, and that's a 9% increase. And then informational text is at 38% with a 10% increase.
What was the 10?
10%, yes. And again, using interventionists. Vocabulary has always been one of the lower ones that we continue to work on. We're assigning lessons in iReady, teacher-assigned lessons with specific vocabulary, having vocabulary walls. Those type of things are the things you're going to see. Again, at the middle school, interventionists, WVTSS, working with Achieve 3000. Those are the pieces you're going to see for that. Questions in reading? All right, Mr. Mann is going to go over now the projected proficiency and how that looks a little bit different than our three tiers.
All right, good evening.
Evening.
I only have one slide, so I don't have to worry about that button there. I'm going to talk about projected proficiency, and when you talk about projected proficiency, we're talking about on the general summative assessment, which is the end of year assessment, okay? That's the GSA that you see there. And that's really important because I know that we come to you guys and we talk about that balanced scorecard at the end of the year, growth, right, and proficiency. That's what counts for us as a school system. That's on our scorecard, so that's the most important assessment that our kids take every year, is that GSA. So if you look at the chart that we made here, the first three columns that you see there are proficiency of the last 3 years of our students, okay? So if you look under the row for math, you're going to see that in 2021, 31% of our students were proficient. We had a 4% growth in math from 2021 to 21-22, and then again 4% more growth last year. And that, I will say, that's awesome growth in math over those 3 years. And you're going to see very similar in reading. We had a 4% growth the first year on here, and then a 2% growth last year. So that's kind of where we've been the last 3 years. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind. It's really important.
And this is K-8?
This is 3-8, third
I'm
grade
sorry,
through
I'm
eighth
sorry,
grade.
3-8.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
3-8.
Yes, sir. Now, the iReady assessment, that's the stuff that's the information that Kristen just went over for you all. That test will project how students will do on the GSA for us. So that next column that you see there, when students took the very beginning of the year, so back in September, when they took that iReady test, if they would have taken the GSA on that day, iReady says that 14% of our students would have been mastery in math and 33 in reading. Now, you can understand why that's so low, because that was at the beginning of the year. We wouldn't expect them to be proficient at that time.
Exactly.
Okay?
And
Right.
Exactly, because the standards have not been covered yet.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, that's
So-
correct. Now, the next column there you see is how they did at the middle of the year. So you can see growth there. And the middle of the year assessment, which is what she was reporting on there, it would project that if our students had taken the GSA that day, 24% would have been proficient in math and 40% would have been proficient in reading. It takes those numbers, okay, along with some other data, and it gives us a projection of what it thinks how our students will do on the GSA at the end of the year, and that's the next column. So if you look at that third column of how we did last year in math, 39% proficient, iReady, based on the assessment that we took, is projecting that our students will score 44% proficient, which is a gain of 5%. They also give what they call a stretch growth, okay, which is the next column there. And they say that it is possible under peak conditions for us to score 57% proficient in math. And that's based on a lot of different things, including how close our students are, like how many students are really close to making that jump to proficiency. It's going to take all that into account when it does that. And you're going to see the same numbers there for reading as well. Okay, so if you look there at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, it's projecting that we would increase by 3% in reading. However, it says that if we had all conditions perfect, they could possibly score 62%. Okay, I will tell you, as experience as a principal, when I was at Milton, that normally you land somewhere between those two numbers.
Okay.
I did, or not myself, our school did for sure. We usually landed somewhere between the typical growth and stretch growth on the GSA. Okay? So those are numbers. Do you guys have any questions about that, how that system works? Yes, ma'am.
Correct
Mrs.
me
Bond?
if I'm wrong. Thank you.
Sure.
Mary. The projection, this is typically, we have seen it to be accurate.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there's actually
I'm sorry, I gotta.
what they call, there's a correlational study between both the iReady assessment and the GSA at the end of the year to
Okay.
determine how closely aligned it is to how students complete at the end of the year iReady versus the GSA.
Yeah.
And they're very, very close. I mean, it's almost spot on. They can, and those same correlational studies also have determined, like for the typical growth.
Yeah.
That typical growth is very, very accurate as to what we should expect.
Okay.
The stretch growth is basically a year and a half worth of growth. So we're pushing, and really a lot of our training and professional development with our school leaders and our teachers is to hit that stretch growth, is to really try to stretch the students for a year and a half of gains,
Yeah.
because it's the only way you're going to be able to catch students up that are behind.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, because if you're only making typical growth every year, you're always going to be, let's say you're already behind, you're always going to be behind.
Always be
if you're
behind.
using typical growth. The only way we can catch students up and close those learning gaps is to be able to hit that stretch growth number. So, and again, Mr. Mann is exactly right. We've been very
Usually
successful with many of our schools hitting that in-between number over the last several years.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and some of them have hit the stretch growth. Milton Middle the past couple of years has hit stretch growth time and time again.
That would be
So,
ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Yeah,
That'd be
absolutely.
great.
Any other questions on projected proficiency for us this year? All righty, next up, Ms. Scarborough, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
So the data that I'm going to present to you this afternoon is going to be totally different than what my peers presented. Just as the elementary and the middle school will have the benchmarks, we at the high school look a little bit different. So what I'm going to talk to you tonight about is what we are doing with our high school students and the programs that we are using in order to improve student success. So the first one that I have up there is Achieve 3000, and that is our ELA program that our students are working on. And so when we are working with our students for this, we're wanting them to do 6 or more activities in a calendar month, and with a first try of scoring 75%. Last year, when I spoke to you early in the year about where we were in Achieve, one of the things that I spoke to you about was our proficiency rate with our students who were using the program, and also the amount of students who had taken the assessment, to make sure that we were getting a clear picture of what Lexile our high school students were reading on. So when I look at the third box over, this is a success for us at the high school level. Those students who are using the Achieve program and taking the assessments that are within there are 91% of the students are scoring 75% or above, which is tremendous from what we were doing last year at this time. So I also look at how many students have taken that. That would be about 82% of our high schoolers. So we're also thinking some of our seniors may not be have taken this. So we're getting a good picture of where our students are. So then I have also presented to you what does it mean to have expected growth and growth using the Lexile or using Achieve. And so one of the things that we talked about was if we're using the overall high usage of 40 activities that our students would complete, I would expect to have 2 times the growth, which means that they would grow 115 Lexiles, or they would have that growth. If I were to use a high usage of 40 to 79 activities, I would have 3.2 times. And if I were to use 80 activities, I would have 4.3. Right now, our students are not using it too, we're not overusing it, or the 80 activities, but we have seen a 3.1 times increase in Lexiles, which means that we have had, it compares student gains to the overall expected growth, and we've seen a 31% increase on our high school students. One of the things that I do want to recognize is we at the high school level now are doing every 9 weeks data meetings. So we're looking at where we are in Achieve, where we are in Con, where we are in Alex. So the next 2 slides that you will see, the first one is Cabell Midland. And when we're looking at our students who are using Achieve at Cabell Midland, 88.9% of the students are scoring the 75% or higher using that. When I look at that Lexile range of 926, that would be at the approaching, the higher end of the approaching college and career readiness standards. Also, it's harder at the high school level when you think about that discrepancy between approach, meet standards, and exceed standards when you're talking about literacy Lexile levels. So in the next one, I want to talk about Huntington High School. And Huntington High School was one of our areas last year when we were in Achieve, and I'm looking at the number of kids who were scoring 75% or higher. Huntington High School has 93.3% of the students showing that they are scoring a 75% or higher. That's a big increase for Huntington High School. Any questions about that so far?
It's saying 49.2% increase. Is that from
From
the previous data?
From our start.
From the start, okay,
Yeah.
from the start, okay, gotcha. Increase, 1, 3,
All right.
123.
So our next program is Alex. ALEX is a program that we're using in math in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. This is part of our math curriculum. And so when we're thinking of a PI as mastered skills in that content area, so we're thinking about where we are. We have, this is the growth that we have from August to December in the mastery of skills. In each area, we see an increase in mastery of skills. And what I did was I went back and I looked at where were we at last year at this time. So when I'm thinking about our students and how we're utilizing the program, from last year in geometry at this time, we've nearly doubled the percent of mastery of the skills in ALEX. In Algebra 1, we have a progress of about 5%, and in Algebra 2, a progress of comparing what we were utilizing the program for of 4%. We've tried to re-image CON. You know that our SAT test has went to a digital platform. The question format and content, the way the content is presented is different. So we have tried as a district to rethink the way that we use Khan Academy to meet the needs of our students. So when we are using Khan Academy, we're expecting our students to spend 30 minutes on it weekly. And we would want them to level up 1 to 2 skills. In ELA for 9th grade, we're working on grammar. In 10th grade, we're working on grammar. And 11th grade, we're working on the official digital SAT practice. And you're going to see some of those results. In math, we're working on 9th grade Algebra 1. 10th and 11th grade are working on the digital SAT practice. So if I look at this overall score, you're going to see a color-coded bar. And this is every skill that a student has worked on. So it doesn't group, for this report, it's not grouping them by who's working on AP questions in Con, who's working on ELA, who's working on math. But this says overall, the learning minutes are averaging 245 minutes. The skills worked on are 18, but the skills leveled up are 13. That's for Huntington High. The skills leveled up for Cabell Midland are 22. That's an average. So when we're looking at our kids saying, are they meeting that goal? Our students are very close to meeting that goal of leveling up for what we want them to do. But we are using it for the AP classes as well. So when I go to the next slide is going to present the digital SAT. So this is where we're going to be measured at when we come to April the 9th, when we take the SAT school day. And so when we're looking at this, we're looking at the digital SAT overall. What are our kids doing? So I have here Huntington High. I want to say at Huntington High, we've seen an overall improvement in our digital SAT math. I do think that our teachers are going in there and they're making sure that we are assigning SAT practice to our students, but we're seeing a greater increase in our students who are showing proficient, the percentage that are in proficient for a digital SAT math. We do have a lower score for the reading and the writing, but we're averaging a level up of 10 for SAT math and 8 for reading. So that is something that we need to look at in our moving forward for the next semester. Because what we notice also in Con is that for Cabell Midland, we're noticing the same lower score in reading and math. Now, my question would be, is it the context and the presentation of the SAT test compared to what they were used to? Also, they had the paper copy, and so we now have this digital copy. So I'm just kind of, is it the presentation of the questions that Con's presenting? This is something we are going to have to dig into. I will say for both schools in their PLCs, this is something that they're talking about. So they're going through and looking at frequently missed questions for our students so that we can try to increase the proficiency. Math for both schools has been a target, which I think is a very evident whenever I look at where the con scores are showing the greatest success. Any questions?
No questions.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll go on to update on operations and support.
That's the next section tabbed.
I think that makes sense.
your book
Yeah,
is tabbed for operations and.
yeah, I've got it. Okay, Mr. Boggs?
Madam Vice President Neely, board members, Dr. Sachs, General Counsel Myers. Got the operations support update this week. So some of the slides that you have are a little bit out of order, and I apologize for that. I've just had shifted things around, and you will see a couple of small changes on this presentation. So the first project is the Altizer Elementary. The brickwork on the classroom addition is nearly complete. It should be, well, I don't know that they got to it today, but drop grid ceiling is installed in the new classroom. You see a picture of that as well. And the rooftop units, or HVAC, is fired up, and that is working in those new additions right now. So it's allowing them to do some of the finish work on the interior. So it's lacking the carpet and the drop ceiling and stuff like that, but they do already have it painted, and the window should be in this week. So on to Meadows Elementary. The site grading work continues, of course, weather contingent. We've not had the most conducive weather over the last couple weeks. The crews are tying rebar for the piling and grade beam to prepare for the foundation, and that's just as the engineering requires grade beams for that and different piling for the slab at that location. And the drill for the piling was actually delivered today. So that big piece of equipment did make it up. I just got word from Chip a few moments ago. And the picture you see on the left-hand side is the retaining wall that is required for this project down at the bottom of the hill. And those are the I-beams that have been placed down there at the bottom of the hill to make room for the concrete that goes in between them to hold back the wall at the Meadows Elementary site. Davis Creek Elementary, they continue the electrical conduit preparation work. The gas line installation is underway right now. They've dug the line for that. The metal roof and decking is installed to support the support staff area. And if you see on the left-hand side, you will see some of the construction taking place on the interior walls, the stud walls, the metal walls going up in that office area. That would actually be the teacher workroom area that you're looking at as you first go into the new building. And they are continuing the ductwork for the HVAC and the installation of roof drains in conjunction with the steel decking for that location. And on the left-hand side, you actually see that they have started, that is the front of the building, they have actually started laying brick. As of Friday, they were about 5 or 6 courses up of the brick. It's hard, it kind of blends in with the concrete there, but it was kind of exciting because we are starting to see a little bit of finish work on the exterior of that building. On the Milton Elementary site, there is 50% of the second floor concrete has been poured, and the plumbing and HVAC work continues to take part in some parts of the building. They're just kind of working around each other, the masons and stuff, as walls go up. I did have the opportunity to be able to go up on the second floor of that building. There's no stairwells right now. You have to go up by ladder right now. But it's absolutely a beautiful view from the second floor. It's the first time I've been up there, looking out across towards Milton Middle School and the housing around the area and the pasture field around that school. Carissa did do a video for us that's looking at Davis Creek Elementary and Milton Elementary, and this is just really a combination of where we started when we started doing the fly-through drone videos to where we are at now, so you can see the progression of where it's been over the last 3 or 4 months at the site. So this will take a couple minutes. That's them laying the brick on the front of the building right now. Any questions about that?
Any questions, board? No? That was a good presentation.
I've got just a
Mr.
couple
Boggs?
more slides. Won't, oh. Update on the Cabell Midland High School turf project. You see pictures there. We are nearly complete with this project. On the left-hand side is the softball field. It is ready to go. And down below on the picture, they're actually putting in the rubber that goes down in between the turf. That was as of last week, so they're starting to rake that in. They were projected to be done this week, but the weather has not been that cooperative, so I would anticipate that would probably be sometime next week. So that project, as you can tell, they are very, very close to nearing completion for that school. On to the Career Center, the upstairs floor is still they continue to remove material from the upstairs. The plumbing is being roughed in, new conduit is being run, and the interior footers are ready for concrete pours, which they've already started pouring some of those interior footers for the wall, so you can see the rebar in that area. They're really making use of more activity every time you go up there at the Career Center.
Justin, did I see a photo earlier this week or where they actually have started building some of the masonry walls?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I thought.
Yes, we've got walls going up around the pillars, or masonry going up around the pillars to cover that up, and then we also have some new walls that are already, they just had to test them, and then they're starting to lay that concrete block. As far as construction change orders, there are none at this time. We do have one personnel change to the personnel. If you look on page 8, and it is 5134P under professional personnel. The effective date is incorrect on that, so I did a strike through. And the effective date is 1/19/24 through 4/22/24. Brianna Castillo?
Is it Brennan?
It is 1/19/24 is the effective date through 4/22/24.
Okay.
That's page 8.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
is page 8. And it's the first one under request for leave of absence.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Wait a second. There's two for the same person, so which one is it,
Yeah.
Mr. Boggs?
It would be the first one.
The short term?
So
Okay.
the extended leave is correct.
That is correct.
So it's just the first one.
It is the first one.
Okay, I'm sorry. So that's 1/19, okay. All right.
Okay,
And that concludes my update.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Boggs.
you.
That was a nice presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the communication from the superintendent, Mr. Sachs or Dr. Sachs.
Thank you, Madam President, or Madam Chair, Madam Vice President. Also, I don't think we have had a chance to make sure people were also aware that we do have Coy Miller with us online, who has been feeling a little under the weather, and then, of course, Mrs. Smalley. And so if there's any questions that you all have, please make sure you let us know. I want to give, as we start out here, I want to give a big shout out to all of our staff today for really working hard to make sure the needs of our students who are remote, obviously, are being met. Sometimes that can be a big ask to be able to have them be able to help virtually, and everybody's been really working hard, and I'm very appreciative. Also want to give a shout out to our building principals and our custodians who, it's essential that they come in to be able to ensure that our buildings, especially with these frigid temperatures, we don't have busted pipes, or if someone is contacting the school, that they have someone that they can reach. And so I really appreciate the dedication of those those folks coming in and being able to man the ship, if you would. I also want to give a big shout out, though, to our maintenance team, because they've been hitting it hard, making sure that our sidewalks are clear, our parking lots are clear. They start way early, making sure that our snow removal equipment is prepped and ready to go. That there's salt in the salt shakers and the plow trucks are ready to go. So our fleet of vehicles, along with our dedicated maintenance crew, have been essential to making sure that once we can resume school in person, which tomorrow is obviously another remote learning day because of the extreme frigid temperatures, negative 10-degree wind chill, along with re-icing of roads. Just it was not going to be safe for us to have students on the road, and of course giving the staff the flexibility, if they can, to be able to work remotely. But again, our maintenance staff has been first class all the way, as always.
Yeah,
so I want to give them a big shout out. We last week had gone around for our monthly Mathia and career literacy winners for our middle schools, and so I was really excited that Kat Perry, our 8th grade teacher at Huntington East, and her students secured the county's top Achieve 3000 trophy for exhibiting their growth in Achieve 3000. And then, of course, Terry Booten, one of our 6th grade teachers at Huntington Middle School, and her students took home the county trophy for the month for Mathia. And it was interesting because they get so competitive with these competitions. Miss Booten told me that it had been 3 years since they've been working on it for 3 years since they last won the county trophy. So she was really excited. And so anyway, I want to congratulate all of our students, both at Huntington East and Huntington Middle School, for their hard work and dedication, and really pushing the envelope as it comes to their achievement on both Achieve 3000 and Mathia. We also had our Cabell County Science and Engineering Fair last week. And it was so exciting to be able to see these young scientists and engineers coming up with all of their innovative projects. And it was the creativity that these students had was just really inspiring. And so we want to congratulate all of our Science Fair and Engineering Fair participants, but especially we want to congratulate those students who are going to go on to the regional contest and represent both their school and the school district. So again, congratulations to those young scientists and engineers. Many board members and myself had the opportunity and the honor of going to Barboursville Middle School's National Junior Honor Society induction on January 5th. And it's always impressive to see how many students are actually able to have accomplished what it is they need to accomplish to be inducted into the Honor Society. So we want to congratulate these students from Barboursville Middle School, and board members, as the other Honor Society programs are scheduled, we'll make sure that you also get an invitation for those as well. The 2024-2025 academic calendar was officially approved by the Department of Education and has been released. This calendar, just for a reminder, was actually approved a year ago with the approval from the board on a 2-year calendar. The Department of Education doesn't consider that second-year calendar, though, until the year prior to, so that's why we just now got approval from the department on the current calendar. So I guess it was sort of out there with draft and was what was originally approved, but it's now formalized and it's out there on our website. So as people make plans for the summer and for next school year, the calendar is ready to go, so you can use that as a frame of reference. Also this week, while we are still monitoring the upcoming, so there's the current storm that's now sort of passing with the wind chills, but we also have another storm that we are closely monitoring for the end of the week. And we work with our partners with the National Weather Service, the local municipalities, the state road, to be able to make decisions as to what we need to do for school. But we do have a board work session on January 18th, this Thursday. That is one of the last board work sessions we're going to have prior to our State of the School addresses, which will be beginning next Monday. So I just want to make sure you all are aware of that. And then on Friday of this week, it's still scheduled, and we're hopeful that we can still do it. There is a really unique opportunity that I wanted to make sure the board knew they were invited to at Marshall University at 8:30 a.m., and I can send out additional details on that. But our seniors are all visiting Marshall University this Friday for a college experience at Marshall. And I'm really excited. There's going to be a very special announcement that I am looking forward to being able to make alongside with Marshall University President Brad Smith. So we're really excited about that announcement that we're going to be able to make specifically as it relates to the opportunities that it provides for our students. And then we also have the night on 5th, which is our superintendent's art walk next Tuesday. That is the second one for the year. That'll be next Tuesday here at the board office at 6 p.m. And so, again, when you walk through our hallways, you'll see that it's full of student artwork that has been selected to be able to be here. And that night, like I said, it's sort of like an art gala. We have our culinary students prepare appetizers, there's music, and then, of course, the students are able to showcase their amazing artwork. So if you can make it for the night on 5th on Tuesday, we would love to see you. Madam Chair and board members, that concludes my superintendent's update.
Thank you, Dr. Sachs. It was a good presentation. We'll move along now to delegations to be heard. I don't think there's anything on there, but is there anyone that came in after that wants to speak?
Nothing that you haven't heard.
Nobody? Okay. So we'll go on to our next item, which is
Board member comments.
comments now. Comments from the board. Mr. Polly?
Just one. I just appreciate how quickly we make decisions on school when there are weather issues. Very helpful to parents and grandparents and planning and all that. Just appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Polly. I'll say it takes a team. Mr. Boggs, Mr. Thomas, we have our road crews that also help make decisions. One of the things I will say, though, is that our goal is to be able to make a decision as timely as possible with all of the information that we have. Unfortunately, Mother Nature can not always be as predictable as the meteorologists or as what we would like. And many times, so we have National Weather Service briefings at 8 p.m. Those are scheduled prior to an event. And so it would be nice to have those a little bit earlier, but that's when they provide us the most up-to-date information. And of course, we monitor any updates that they have throughout the day also. But our goal is to always be able to provide to make a decision as early as possible for parents to make plans. I want to thank our parents and our families, though, for their understanding when sometimes we can't, because we also understand that when we close school, that can present a lot of challenges for our families, whether that be for supervision or childcare, and sometimes it's just being able to help their children with the work that we have from remote learning. And so we don't take those decisions lightly, but we do appreciate their understanding and know that we are on top of it. We're assessing all of the information as we have it, so that we can make the best informed decision for our students and to keep our students and our staff the safest as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Coy.
I think it's Mr. Miller.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am. Just had a real quick question for Dr. Sykes there. Dr. Sykes, we keep getting messages from Jim Brown about principal nominees for the winter conference. Have we submitted anyone for that?
We have, from Ms. Watts has 3 names that she's submitting to see
Okay.
see if they'll be approved.
Okay, I was just wanting to make sure. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And I've seen those too, and that's where Ms. Watts and I have been working together on that. So thank you for asking about that.
Okay.
Okay. Our next item is workshop request. Are there any requests for workshops from the board?
I don't have anything new.
Hearing none, we'll move on.
By the way, Ms. Bond, the SRO request,
Have
that'll be
one?
on Thursday.
Do
Thank
have a-
you.
Yep.
You do have one?
No, not a new one. We're doing it Thursday.
Okay.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, then our next item is consent on the agenda, section 4. Is there anything in section 4 that anybody wants to discuss or pull out of that section to talk about?
No, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I would just like to, again, point out in the consent agenda, one of the items that I'm really, I think I'm really proud of, and that is item 4.02, which is the purchase of locally sourced beef from Hammock Ridge Farms. I had mentioned in our last board meeting that we've been trying. Obviously, we have
Bless you.
our food program where we try to buy as much local produce from the state as possible, but we're only one of the very few counties that have ever attempted to be able to purchase our beef and pork from local farmers as well. And so for the past 3 years, we've been we've worked through a co-op, and it's been very successful. What we've decided to do is take a little bit of a pivot where we're just purchasing the ground beef, and allow people and local farmers to bid on the purchase price, the contracted purchase price of that ground beef. And that's really what this agenda item is Hammock Ridge Farms is the one who won that contract at $4.75 a pound. And again, this is 4,000 pounds per month, which is basically one day of doing, let's say, spaghetti across the school district. That's how much beef it takes for us to feed our children here in Cabell County Schools. And so, again, this is supporting local farmers, local processors in the agricultural industry, and it's putting farm fresh beef into our schools for our students. And so I'm really excited about this this agenda item because, again, I think it's supporting the local farming economy, but it's also bringing the very best that we can provide for our students from a meal standpoint. So like I said, the old ag teacher in me is really excited about this. So.
Good, thank you. I'm glad you pointed that out. Is there anything else anybody else wants to discuss on section 4? Okay, then I need a motion to approve that section.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Bond moves. Mrs.
Smalley.
Smalley seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So approved. We're under financial, section 5. Mr. Rodkin.
Thank you, Mrs. Neely. Good evening, board members.
Good
Good
evening.
to see everybody, and hello to President Smalley and Board Member Miller on the phone as well. I have very brief comments this evening for the agenda items in the finance section. We've got the December treasurer's report and vouchers payable, the normal stuff. And then there's just a few supplements this month. Last month, I think we had a pretty long list. This one's a real small one. And the biggest supplement in there is actually a for and on behalf, is where we're recognizing the value of the Nano Beast that we received last month. The value of that bus is $265,000. We didn't have to pay for that, but in our accounting books, we have to go ahead and recognize the value of that asset. So that's amongst the budget supplements this time. I know we're going to get together on Thursday for our first budget update, but I was wondering if you all had any questions this evening for me.
Any questions for Mr. Rodkin?
I don't right now.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Rodkin. I appreciate that. I'll need a motion to approve the financial section.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Pauly,
Second?
seconded by Mrs. Bond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So
Aye.
approved. We're under the personnel section of the agenda. Is there anything that anybody wants to pull out, discuss? We do have a correction on page 8 on the date, as mentioned by Mr. Boggs. So that will be taken under consideration when we vote on this item. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss?
There
Yes.
is one on the service personnel that I would like us to have a very brief discussion about.
Service personnel, you want to go in executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I need a motion to go into,
Could you see state which one it is?
Oh, yes.
So that we can,
It's on page 12.
which page is it?
12.
12.
And it is
oh, that's what he would say.
CK 24024.
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved by Mr. Pauly, seconded by Mrs. Bond, that we go in executive session for item CK 24024. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Mr. Pauly, or I'm sorry, Mr. Miller and Mrs. Smalley, I will give you a call when we go into the executive session.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Madam Vice President, I make a motion that we enter into a regular session.
Mrs. Bond moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Pauly seconds, that we come out of the executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're back in regular session. Okay.
Do we
We're ready
have,
I can make a
to,
recommendation.
We're ready to vote on professional personnel. I need a motion.
Service.
do we have Mr. Miller and Mrs. Smalley back?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay, okay.
Okay, so they're back?
Yes.
And we're ready
Yeah.
for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel section with the change that was noted earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
Agreed, I'll second.
With the correction on page 8, okay.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, it was moved by Mr. Pauly, seconded by Mrs. Bond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that item is approved. The next item on the agenda is item 6, is approval of personnel items.
Item
Is
7.
there anything there that anybody wants to discuss?
We just did the
We
personnel.
just did it.
We're on item
Oh, we
7.
just-
Yeah.
we-
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
It gets confusing there where you have professional and
Yeah,
service, I
well,
know.
It's on there
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, and then you come and you do that one and you throw me off. I think you're trying to confuse me, which one doesn't do much. Item 7 is approval of the student expulsion hearings. Is there any comments, any questions on special board items on student expulsions?
Madam President, I just, I just recommend full approval of the
Okay.
special board items.
Okay, we need a motion.
I make the motion, we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Mrs. Smalley moves.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Coy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, it's been approved. Next item on the agenda is a discussion, update on legal issues. Is there anything that we have to go into legal? No?
Okay.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Next thing we have is adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Bond,
Second?
second by Mrs. Smalley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So moved.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Yeah. Madam, board members, I did want to update you. The MU event on Friday is actually at 10 a.m. and I will send you specifics of where to go if you're interested. So I'll give you that information. I'll email you or something like that. So
Thank you.
I won't.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll be having sweet dreams.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you.